Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 33 of the New Slang Podcast. I'm Thomas Mooney, your editor-in-chief of New Slang here in Lubbock. And on episode number 33, we have singer-songwriter Ryan Beaver joining us. He was here in Lubbock last Friday, and he lives up in Nashville now. But he's been a Texas staple for the last, decade or so. Anyways, we talk about on this podcast, this episode, about his move up to Nashville and how he's been able to make a whole lot of connections up there with a whole lot of different songwriters, and how adapting to that different kind of style of writing. It's not necessarily a different style, but we get into it on the podcast. I won't just bore you here with the redoing it here. He released this record called RX last year, and it ended up being one of my favorite records of the year. It was a really, really dark, and the tones and textures were really lush, and the songwriting that he has on this record, I thought was just really incredible. He really became a songwriter who went from being a good above average to being a really great songwriter on this record. It has all these little moments on here on that record that I feel like that are just incredible moments that really aren't happening on a lot of other records at this moment in this time. And I think you're going to find a whole lot of people who cited as an inspiration, one of their major influences, because again, I think Ryan found a sound on this record that is easier said than done, but it's really distinctive, and he's got his not just an incredible voice, but now I think he's found his songwriter voice. And anyways, on this episode, we talk about a lot of the songwriting that Ryan's done in these last few years. Some of you may be thinking, why hasn't there been a New Slang podcast in a while? And, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is just I've been busy doing other things that have been outside of New Slang, and working on a few different projects that I really can't get into at this moment, but they're promising, I guess. Maybe you'll be hearing about them soon enough. And I guess we've also been doing other podcasts on here, but I just don't think we're ever going to release them, just because I don't think the quality of them were that great. I think the conversations were amazing, but we did switch over to some new equipment, and I don't know, I just don't think I had a great grasp on the equipment, because not to bore you with just the little details about this, but I don't think the quality came out as good as I anticipated it would. But anyways, we're going back on schedule here with this interview with Ryan. Hopefully we can continue it in the next coming weeks. Maybe next Tuesday we'll be able to grab someone during Dalton Domino's Drinko. He just announced it this, earlier today. He announced that his third annual Drinko is going to be Tuesday, May 9th at the Blue Light. And I guess they've really kind of streamlined the schedule, if you will, this time around. Instead of having, I don't know how many people he had playing last year, 30 bands maybe, 25, something like that. They're down to 9, which I think is probably a better thing going forward. This year it's going to be Wade Bowen, Dalton Domino, No Dry County, and I just moved my list so I don't see it right now. But those Wade Bowen, Dalton Domino, No Dry County, Cody West, Bree Bagwell, Austin Meade, Jamie Lynn Wilson, Charlie Stout, and Grant Gilbert. It's going to start at 6 p.m. Tickets are going to be $20, and it's 21 and up. So I don't know if they are going to have any kind of pre-sale tickets, but we'll try and let you know if they do. Maybe we'll have some kind of giveaway on New Slang, and where you can probably find all this information as we release it is going to be on any of our social media. So if you don't follow us on Twitter or Instagram or on Facebook, go ahead and do so now. You can find us at _New Slang on Twitter and on Instagram, and then on Facebook you can just search for New Slang and we'll be one of the first to pop up. Anyways, we'll go ahead and just get on with the interview with Ryan here in just, I guess, a few seconds. Thanks. So, you moved to Nashville just, when was that? Just a couple years back now?
I moved there June the 3rd of 2013. So this June will make 4 years that I've lived there. Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah, okay. I think like you're one of these interesting cases of, obviously like a lot of people like to play up the whole Nashville versus Texas thing. And you were in the Texas circuit for a long, long time.
Right.
Then you moved to Nashville.
Right.
How was there any kind of like, I guess like integrating into breaking into that system as well? Or were you comfortable already?
Yeah,
Did you know people to?
I lived in Austin 7 years. Absolutely loved it. Made a couple of records and toured all around the Southwest. And we started to build a really great following, and that's been the foundation of everything I've done. So I consider all that time like the most important time, of touring and me trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do, and also just continuing to write songs. So it was like, it was like my school years, I guess. The road, the early years of the road. You're trying new things and just trying to hone in on your craft. And for me, that was a really good time. It was also super tough and frustrating. And then one day I sort of had a big moment where I felt compelled to get out of my comfort zone, because I was very comfortable living in Austin and touring and making records, but I didn't feel the growth that I needed personally. So I decided to take my chances at spending some time in Nashville, and that turned into now just about 4 years. So it's been obviously a transition period there as well. But, music for me has always sort of been like, what's the next door going to lead to? Mm-hmm. And I never had a big grand plan of how my career would be or, how it would go. So I've just sort of tried to take the opportunities that felt right and take one door at a time, one gig at a time, one song at a time, So it's been good, though. I have a really great story that I'm super proud of,
Yeah. I think like a lot of people think that if you stay in Texas too long, you can it's such a good thing. Like when you're starting out, you have all these places to play, but after a certain point, then you get kind of typecast.
Yeah, I think that music fans who live in Texas don't necessarily want to hear this, but the truth is there's only so many places you can play, mm-hmm. and if you're hitting these venues and markets 6-7 times a year, you're wearing it out.
Yeah.
And I want for somebody to pay the $10 to come to a show and feel like they saw something new, improved, and refreshed, and not the same old thing, At least for me as a music fan, that's what I would want. So I think that hitting a market like we are tonight in Lubbock, it's been forever since I've been here, but I walk in the room and it's like a flood of memories, and if I can do it a couple times a year, then I feel like I'll be really happy about that,
Yeah. And a lot of guys, I guess like in your class, your generation of the Texas songwriter,
yeah,
they're all getting up into Nashville. They're getting in, and I know like William Clark Green and like Ross Cooper. They moved,
Yep.
or Ross lives up there. William always goes up there. There's a lot of Texas songwriters who are going up there and writing with.
Yeah, I sort of accidentally feel like the Texas liaison between Texas and Tennessee. Because I have a background. I'm born and raised Texan, and I have a background of playing here. I know what this scene is about. I know where it started and where it's gone. And then I also know the other side of the coin, what Nashville's like. And, man, just like anything else you sort of come to, there's always two sides to the story. And sometimes maybe in three. But, the reality is there's some really great stuff happening in Texas. There's some really great stuff happening in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really great stuff happening on the West Coast and the East Coast and areas people wouldn't think, So it's just sort of about being open-minded enough to go figure it out and see what's for you and what's not. It's like, you go to a buffet, you try a bunch of stuff, and you find the 5 or 6 things you really love, right? And then that's my new go-to, right? So that's for music. That's kind of how I've treated it. I think Nashville, I know what I love about it and what I hate about it. And the same thing goes for, when I spent time in Austin, there were things I love about it and things I hated about it. So, it's all taste. But I do find myself, getting a text or a call, every single week almost from somebody, an old, friend coming through town, whether it's Asleep at the Wheel or William Clark Green or Kyle Park or Randy Rogers, any of these guys that I call friends, it's like, hey, we're coming through town. Do you have some time to ride or hang or get a beer or let's talk, any of that. And that's the coolest thing. It's like, I feel like I have access to visit all these people, even though I've been primarily in Nashville for the last 4 years.
Well, that's the thing too, is like, even if living in Nashville, there's enough people coming from Texas.
Right.
Like it's like living in Texas in a way.
Right, yeah.
And
there's so many people moving here from different areas I talked to people from California who are just obsessed with this scene and wanted to be a part of it. And, growing up here, it was like, man, there's this really cool scene where you can go make a record or not even make a record, go get a band and put some songs together and go play for people who are willing to listen and support live music. And they didn't hear you on the radio.
Yeah.
It's just simply about, do I like this or not, which is what I love. I mean, that is the Texas attitude that will never die, that I think is amazing, is it doesn't matter. We have a very strong, I love this, and I'm willing to support this attitude towards our musicians, and that's important. It's like any other scene, anywhere else. So
yeah, it is interesting. I think the Texas thing, I think it goes all back to, like our grandparents going to cotton clubs and big dance halls.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And that, I guess like the big Western swing.
Yeah.
Transformed into, outlaw country.
Yeah, it had to go somewhere. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Bob Wills, and the Texas Playboys were coming through and playing places where nobody even, you didn't leave your hometown. You were working all the time and supporting a family. So, like, when somebody would come through town, you'd all go see them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, people got open to, all these amazing musicians that have come out of Texas over the years. So whether it's Stevie Ray Vaughan or Buddy Holly, Waylon Jennings, it's really amazing. And then where it's gone from there is amazing to me. And the coolest thing about it, I know people probably gripe about it, but the fact that things change and new waves come in and sort of what was is no more.
Yeah.
And what will be, you can't imagine. So I really love that. I love hearing about, hey, man, have you heard of this guy or have you heard of this band? And, it's the coolest thing ever because that the scene is alive and well.
Yeah. Well, like here in Lubbock, since it is a college town, it feels like everything changes every 4 years.
Absolutely.
I guess like the waves in music in general are a little bit bigger, but like since this is a college town, it feels like every 4 years, like the audience they're looking for a different kind of sound, not because like, oh, we're tired of the old sound or tired of this band, but it's just like, oh, we like this stuff. And
right.
It is strange and seeing like all those little waves create
absolutely.
Like these big movements.
And that to me is what's really cool and really tough as far as a musician goes because, when you just stick to playing college markets, your turnover is always happening. So you might have some people that love you for a few years, but then they graduate, they go get their first jobs, they're raising families, and they're not able to catch you on a Tuesday or Wednesday night at the Blue Light like they used to.
Yeah.
And so then you're forced to sort of grow and find a new audience of people who are going to come out and see you, right? But the college crowd always has a new crop of bands they love, songwriters they love, and they support them. But you're, as a musician, when you're talking about a career, you're always growing. I mean, you've got to go somewhere, right? You can't do the same thing over and over and over. And what's been amazing is to watch guys that I kind of watched that were older than me, transition through that period and figure out what their next move was going to be. I mean, man, Aaron Watson's on his, 15th record, something, 13, somewhere in there, and he is playing to audiences bigger than he ever has. I mean, Aaron and I just did a show in Los Angeles, and it was crazy to see this fan base in the heart of Los Angeles coming out in boots and hats and, throwing down to Aaron Watson's songs. So.
Yeah. I wonder if Watson or Cody Johnson's real easy for them to pick up, since they are probably fans of the Sam Outlaws, that kind of LA country kind of stuff.
It's so strange because I would talk to people and they would say, well, I'm from New Braunfels, but I live in San Fran, or I live in LA, or I've been in the military and I'm stationed out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
You have a lot of Texans, but you also have, word of mouth, people who are like, yeah, my cousin turned me on to Aaron or so-and-so, Cody Johnson. And, that's what's so cool, too, about this scene is, it's so much word of mouth, and supporting from all the musicians themselves. So, and then, the world is smaller than we think it is sometimes. I mean, it's amazing who you can meet. You're always a few degrees away from somebody,
Yeah. So your last record, RX, it came out last year.
Yeah.
I really love that record.
Thank
I think
you.
the palette in which you really made that record, of the tones, I just really love the tones and textures of that record.
Thank you.
They're a little bit more dark and more just a little darker than a lot of stuff that comes out that you would.
Yeah, I mean, this was the third record I've made, and I tell people all the time I'm still trying to figure this thing out. But the difference is I'm older. I've experienced a lot of different elements of life that I can pull from, some stories, some travel, and I've written a ton of songs at this point. So it just gives me better perspective. I don't know that it makes me better, but it gives me better perspective on what it is I'm trying to do. And I sort of got more of a vision. Whereas before I wrote a bunch of songs that I really loved, and, I would put them on a record and then go out and promote it. Now I'm a little more calculated about how I do everything. And then as far as the sonically how that record sounds, I did a lot of experimenting. I spent a ton of time in the studio with two guys that I worked with, and we just went in and we wanted to basically treat the studio like a lab and try a bunch of different sounds and different ideas and go from there. But there are a couple of records I was always a big fan of growing up, and it was Radney Foster's "See What You Want to See" record. And it was very progressive at the time, I thought. And then Jack Ingram put a record out called Electric that I thought was amazing. That was super progressive. And it sort of felt like it pushed the boundaries of what country, Americana, Heartland could be. And I wanted to have that sort of vibe on this record and then maintaining the quality of the song. Like, for me, it had to be a great song, or else we weren't even going to discuss it. And so, you got to be hard on yourself. You're sifting through a ton of songs and going, man, it's good, but it isn't great, or it doesn't fit this project or something, you know? So I had a tremendous amount of fun making it, and I appreciate you saying that a lot, because it's doing really well in the grand scheme of things for me. I've been blown away. Yeah. And the response and from people, and we're having fun playing the tunes out.
Yeah. Well, I think this is just one of those little underrated aspects of a record, is that it does feel like you trim the fat on it. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
what is it, 9, 10 songs? It
Right.
feels like there's nothing that's just like, okay, like why do we have 14 songs on here? You know,
Right.
it's just sonically just what is it, like 35 minutes? Just
Yeah, probably
30?
under 40.
It just flows really well. And,
Yeah.
you know, so many great records end up having a song or two where you're just like, they put this on there because they had extra songs.
Right.
I think more people are getting better at.
I agree. I think. Well, I'm guilty of that.
Mhm.
If I'm being completely honest and tough on myself, there are definitely songs that I think ended up on records in the past that were okay, but I think they were rounding out a record. And I don't know at what point somebody said you need 12 or 11 or 10 songs, but today's attention span is so short. I still am a fan of the record. I think it completely tells a story if one's willing to spend the time to listen from top to bottom. And I really love that way. But, I don't know what will happen. I mean, we're in such an age of singles and all about being one or two songs that it's, as a songwriter, I don't want to make records that don't feel complete. But I'm interested to see how the rest of the world treats it. I think that we all grew up listening to albums where we bought it because of the one or two songs that we heard all over the radio, but then you fell in love with the other 7, and they totally saved you in some way, and I still want that feeling to come across. That's my hope, that maybe you bought it because of this song or this song, but then you found these other songs and these were your favorites. You know what I mean? So the goal going forward is to have songs where there's no wasted line, no wasted song, for sure. I mean, you definitely have targets with your records. Like, I knew this was a relatively heavy record subject wise, and there were some really sad moments about it, so I wanted to try to lighten it. So there was some stuff that I thought was fun and lightened it a little bit, which I'm really glad at the looking back I did that, because it would have been super heavy, and there's nothing wrong with that. So some of my favorite records are 10 or 12 completely terrible, heartbreaking songs. But as a listener, I definitely want a balance. I mean, because to me, like, life is a balance, right? So I think the music should be that way as well. So that's my hope. Yeah.
Yeah, it is like this strange time in music where you're seeing a lot more bands put out EPs,
Right?
And like, I guess, like, business-wise, that does make sense.
Sure.
Putting out, we're just going to put out 5-song EPs every 6 months.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's going to, like, if that's going to be, like, judged harshly by time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I don't know. It's tough, because honestly, that is what you just said is my favorite thing ever. When you're making music, when you're putting out records, time reveals so much, and that's the thing that I kind of am going, okay, hopefully I'm making something that when I look back in 10 years, 15 years, I don't cringe. I'm very proud of. Maybe it even made a difference in somebody's life other than my own, and time is such a funny thing, because you listen back on, like, late 80s rock records and they're just terrible, and you're going, man. And then the 90s hit and Nirvana happened, and then it just completely made everything else look dumb, right?
Yeah.
It just sort of washed it away. And I still go back to, like, Nevermind record. I mean, it's an amazing record.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my hope, is to make something that is for that moment in time, but still has the ability to stand the test of time. And as far as, like, the EP thing goes, I don't know, because I've kicked it around. I thought, well, sometimes I'll have, like, a character, and this song fits these, this character fits these 5 songs.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, that could be its own little chapter, right? And then you move to another EP and cut 5 or 6 that are something else.
Yeah.
And, I think if it's themed, it's cool, but you're right. I don't know how.
See, I think, like, that can work. It's just the, these are our 5 best new songs. We're cutting them all together. Because in a way, like, if you just do, like, an EP about a character, and then, like, move on to the next character or a different theme,
right?
In a way, that's like doing, like, a double record, but in just 2 different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and then like I have this thing I'm always thinking about because I write a ton of songs because I absolutely love it. Like one of my favorite things in the world and forever will be is sitting down on a piano or with a guitar and trying to write a song. And you know, with that comes the sort of an honesty that you have to realize. I wrote a song, and this may be a good song in my eyes, but is it really a great song that will really hold up, that everybody can, no question, say, man, that is 100% a great song? And maybe I shouldn't be so hard on myself, but I guess I say all this to say, like, if we have more people write 100 songs and then pick 2 out of those 100, and then, you know, write another 100 and another 100 and pick 1 or 2, they're really going to make a great album. They really are. Instead of just, hey, I wrote 20 songs and we narrowed it down to 15.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's so interesting is, like, you know, if somebody's really hard on themselves, it's like the whole diamond concept. With pressure and time comes, you know, we get a diamond. But I think so many people are unwilling to do the work and unwilling to write and unwilling to look themselves in the mirror and say, man, is this really good or is this okay?
Yeah.
And, you know, certain things serve different purposes. I mean, you can write Song of the Year, but I don't think anybody wants an album with like 12 Song of the Years on it. I think you need 1 or 2 maybe, but, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think also this may be something that's happened forever, but I think like we're in an age where I was just talking about this the other day on line about how so many fans are just they have like the binary rating system. It's complete shit, or this is the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah.
And I think like that, the overpraise of a songwriter or of a band can be it can make the growth of the band stop happening. It can stunt the growth of a band.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I mean, it can be definitely detrimental because it gets in the writer's head of, you know, that's what the bar is. And the truth is, you know, if you look at somebody like Tom Waits' career, you see that he's written great songs in his, you know, early days, and then he wrote great songs now, but they've gotten better and better over time. And he's really honed in on what it is he does well, what he offers, you know. And at the end of the day, we could be as serious as we want about music and songwriting, but we're just making, you know, these things that people will fill their brains with. And it's like, I read this thing, it was like Tom Waits said, songs are like jewelry for the inside of people's brains. I mean, you know, it's complete art, and it's up to the person to decide, you know.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people I meet that absolutely want in their life, you know, Florida Georgia Line cruise. And then there are people that, you know, they want Bob Dylan and Jason Isbell, you know. I mean, so who am I to judge what somebody wants? I just know what I like, and whenever I'm making music, I'm really just trying to make something I think that I would want to buy and that I'm proud of, and then maybe somebody else would want to hear too.
Yeah. I think that, you know, that so much of this goes to is that, like, people like us they're few and far between are there people like us who are buying music, you know what I'm
Constantly.
saying? Like, mostly people are, you know, it's radio in the background music, and
that's right, man.
you know,
I mean,
so I try not to like judge too hard on the idea of of like a band or a songwriter just taking off in that way, just because like he or she captures the everyday working man style. It's kind of like like Leonard Skinner kind of thing. I don't think Leonard Skinner was the greatest band, but like they captured a certain type of person, for lack of a better term, like just hardworking
a
rednecks.
demographic,
you know what I mean?
and a moment in time. And they really, I mean, that's all we're really trying to do is take, you know, little moments out of people's lives and, you know, put them with melody and rhyme. And you want it to be relatable. I mean, I think there's probably a time and place if I wanted to write a song that only I understand, that's just for me. But if you're doing it for a business, no, it's got to be relatable. It needs to be able to hit a mass amount of people. And, sometimes that's a select number of people. Sometimes it's a huge number. That's up for the listeners. I mean, the artist has to just do what the artist feels and put its best foot forward. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot of that in the scene here in Texas where it's like a lot of bands have captured that, who knows, free-spirited 4 years of college, beer drinking, good time having, and they've that's their entire set. That's what they do, and I think that's pretty special. I mean, I think that people who do that that's amazing. I've always sort of been a fan of music that was able to be transcendent of all those things. Like maybe they grabbed this demographic, but they could also grab this demographic or this demographic and, sort of relate to a lot of different people than just one moment. Like, I'm having a great time. You know what I mean? I like the writers who were able to catch, how I'm feeling in a terrible time, or maybe if I don't even know how I'm feeling until I hear a song, and then I go, man, that's exactly how I feel right now.
Yeah.
So that's what I sort of, attract to. But as far as, I'm a music fan first and foremost. I mean, I think you're right. A lot of people are just, getting up and doing the best they can, going to work, and then, collect a check and take care of themselves. And maybe music for them is just what's on the radio that morning on the way to work, and that's a pretty cool thing too, because that's tough to like write a song that's on morning, country radio, and everybody kind of digs it. I mean, that's I think people think it's easy. It's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be some dumb songs. Yeah, I'll give you that, but like, to crank those out it's a chore, man. It's its own craft. I'll say that.
Yeah. I think like it's one of those things, like so many fans think that all the just top 40 in general, all those songwriters are bad songwriters. And it's really not the case. Like those are good songwriters, but they're also writing what's the market's dictating in a way.
Right.
I had an example the other day of like Paul Overstreet, like Daddy's Come Around. And he also co-wrote like When You Say Nothing at All.
Yeah, When You Say Nothing at All.
And then like he also co-wrote She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy. Like,
sure.
15 years later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's one of those like one of these is not like the other, but it's also like they were top 10 hits. So is it him changing or is it the audience?
I think they're a lot of people may give me flack for this, but I think that, I've always tried to approach songwriting as very serious. Whether it was a light song or a heavy song, that's just been me because I care so much. But, at the end of the day, if you can write a meaningful love song like When You Say Nothing at All, and then you can also like turn around and write She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy, which is just supposed to be a fun, no thinking sing along.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of amazing. I mean, I don't know that I could do it, but the fact that he could is pretty cool because both are super relatable to everyone, right? I mean, like, one is probably your favorite song over the other, but they're both relatable to people out there. So,
go ahead.
No, yeah, I think it's tough.
I think it goes to it kind of goes back to the whole working man thing.
Yeah.
I had a conversation, or it's really been like a series of conversations, kind of about the same thing, where it's like the reason like alt country never really took off was because like those guys who were writing alt country were trying to write about like poor people,
right,
hardworking people, and when it comes down to it, like poor people don't want to hear songs about poor people,
right?
You know what I mean? They're looking for some kind of escape from being poor, so they don't really give a shit about songs about farming when they're farming. They already know it.
They know it inside out. Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, I think at the end of the day, radio is radio, and radio dictates a lot of why the songs sound the way they do. And, you know, they're just trying to sell ads, and they want to keep you on their station, so they're playing what they think you want to hear, right? So radio dictates a lot of that. And there are a ton of writers that write amazing songs every day that are sitting on hard drives and nobody will ever record or maybe even hear. And they're very, 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 very amazing songs. And then, you know, you kind of see why artists cut certain songs, because they're trying to play the radio game, and radio needs this or radio needs that. And so radio dictates a lot of that business. You know, I think a lot of people think it's the artist or the writer. And I got to say, it's a lot of just trying to hit the target of what radio wants. And radio's so particular because they're all about what's hot and how to keep you on that station. And I completely understand it. And, you know, I'm grateful anytime somebody records my song or a song that I co-wrote, because that's what I love to do, you know. It's my hope, though, that whatever I put out or someone else records is good. It's offering something that I think has quality. You know, I really want to try to keep quality at the forefront of everything I do musically. But I've also learned over the years that there's a time and place for certain songs. Like, you got to have a goofy song, man. I don't care what it is. Like, John Prine was the king of, you know, Roger Miller. I mean, these guys realized you could write husbands and wives, and then you could turn around and write, you know, can't roller skate in a buffalo rink. You know what I mean? So, I mean, because it's all, like I said, comes back to that balance. You know, I think that's one thing that I've tried to embrace over the years is they don't all have to solve quadratic equations and, you know what I mean, the world problems. I mean, they're just songs. So, you know, I think if you're able to offer quality, then everyone will notice.
Yeah. What is your mindset when you go into to co-write a song, but it's not really a song that you know that you're going to cut? Like, what kind of...
My kind of just what I said. My mindset is to, like, figure out a way to make this the best song possible, to have lines in that song that I can be proud of, that I can say, yeah, man, that was my line, or that was my hook, or that was my melody, and, you know, to make it really good. And maybe the artist is really hell-bent on writing this particular idea, and maybe I'm not a fan of it, but I'm going to dig in to, like, figure out a way, like a puzzle, figure out a way to make this idea work, but in a really cool way, and something that, you know, has quality. And, you know, years and years of listening to music from all different genres, I have that in the back of my mind saying, like, don't mess this up. You know, I wrote this same idea, but it was called this. You know, whatever it is. I mean, I have that background, and so I'm always going, you know, that's been written or that's been said and that's been done. But I'm trying to give a unique perspective and something of quality with an idea that, say, an artist or another writer wants to write. And then there are times when, you know, I come in and it's my idea and it's my thing, and I'm kind of leading the charge on the song. And, you know, I definitely, you know, a lot of people have said, what has your time in Nashville been like? And I've said, man, it's great. You know, there are a lot of great players, writers, and singers, and that town is a magnet for it because of the commerce, the opportunity. And so I've been able to write, you know, and play some of the best songs I've ever written and been a part of, and then some of the worst. You know, I've been a part of some of the worst too. So
yeah. Okay, on RX, like, I'm not gone over the like the liner notes, but like, were all those co-writes, or were most of those just you doing your own?
Yeah. So the first record I ever made, I wrote everything. Second record, I wrote everything, but then there was about 3 or 4 songs that I wrote with a buddy. This record, I wanted to go in completely open-minded, complete blank canvas, and no idea except for quality songs that I can sit down with any instrument and play, and it's going to translate, right? So behind production, anything, like, these songs have to count. I wrote everything with some friends of mine. So we co-wrote a lot. I would come in with a chorus, or I'd come in with an idea, or maybe I wrote half of it, or maybe they had an idea, you know? And then we just sort of sifted through what I thought were the better songs that fit this project. But then I got to the end and I realized, I'm so in love with other musicians and writers and what they do. And, it's sort of this heartbreaking thing to know how many great songwriters and songs are there in Nashville not being heard because an artist is too afraid to cut something or say something. So I found 2 songs that I didn't have a thing to do with on the writing, and I recorded them because I knew that if I didn't, probably nobody would.
Yeah.
And they fit this project so well. And they were also songs that I was pissed because I wanted to be like, yeah, I wrote that, but I couldn't say that. And so I knew that was the right attitude. Like, if I felt that strongly about it, we have such a good competition. It's like, man, I wish I wrote that song. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the feeling and the mentality, it's probably a pretty good one. So there were 2 songs I didn't write for the record that I'm super proud of, and I hope the people who wrote it dig what we did on the record.
Which 2 songs?
Steal Yours and Rum and Roses.
Okay.
And both of them play a really important part on the record.
Yeah.
So.
I really like, I think like my favorite songs on the record are Rum and Roses, and I love Christofferson.
Yeah.
And then If I Had a Horse.
Thank you.
I think that song right there is just like, I can't think of like what it reminds me of, but like it, for some reason, like it, it plays back into my childhood.
Yeah.
Like it's very nostalgic in a way.
That's good. That was the hope. I mean, I had, I sat down to write that song that day, and I didn't really know how it would all go down, but I knew that I looked, you look in the mirror one day and you go, man, where did the last 10 years go? And for me, I'd grown up in Emory, Texas, which is in 70 miles east of Dallas-Fort Worth, out in the middle of nowhere. And, I'm so proud of where I'm from, but it just like somehow time disappeared. I mean, it just, one day I'm literally out in the yard running around on a, like a wooden broom, like acting like it's a horse. And then the next thing I know, I'm, living in Nashville and dealing with my life, at the moment. And it just seems so far-fetched. Like if you'd have told myself at 10 years old how my life would turn out, all the ups and downs, and it's such a bittersweet feeling, like you're glad for the pain, you're happy you made it that far, I love what I do, but man, it's just such a ride, and it happens so quick. So I wanted to figure out a way to sort of capture all of that, and we did it. I think we did that in What If I Had a Horse, and I knew it would be the last song on the record.
Yeah.
It's very stark. It's a little, we cut it all live. We didn't touch anything. It was just one take. What you hear is what happened that day. I think we recorded it 3 times, and we took the second take or something like that. So, it's got scars on there, but I mean, I feel like that's as real as it gets. And, also I didn't need anybody to tell me that was a song, a good song, or like, to me, that was a country song. I didn't feel like I needed anybody to say, hey man, that's a really good country song. I just knew it. And so that was important, that confidence that sort of helped round out why I was making that record, And, yeah, I love it. I'm proud of that one.
Yeah. What's, like I said, like the record came out last year. Like, are you already thinking of what's up next? Or
all right, so we recorded that record, and this is what's crazy. I recorded that record in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
It was done in January of 2015. I didn't put it out until May of 16. So we're out playing these songs, and it's doing well, but I've been past that record for a while now, and I'm kind of always the guy who's always a record or a record and a half ahead. So one thing I did when I moved to Nashville is I never stopped the recording process. So the demos, the writing, it never ends. Monday morning, I'll be, or Monday afternoon, I'll be working again, and I love it that way. That schedule works for me. I think there are a lot of people who are like, man, I need to feel the inspiration. There just needs to be some things that happen. I get it. But I'm sort of a lunch pail rider in the sense that I'm going to show up. Maybe I get something, maybe I don't. But Yeah, I've been stockpiling stuff, and I think that before this year's over, I'll go spend some time recording what will be a next record. I have no timeline or rush on it because, I felt so good about this project, and it was so well received, and we had such strong feedback, and for the most part, all positive. But I definitely don't want to just do something to do it. It needs to be something that's okay. That chapter's closed, and now it's time for this chapter. So that's always how I viewed the albums. It's like, man, that was a chapter of my life. Some of them you look back and it's like old photos of you. You're like, oh my God, look at me. And that's kind of how I feel about some of the early recordings. But it takes some balls to sort of put that out there and say, this is me, and for better or for worse, and mistakes, and I'm proud of that. Because growing up, I was really quiet, shy, kind of for the most part, and the thought of putting something out publicly for everyone to criticize and make fun of, it's terrifying, especially now in this day and age of social media. I mean, it can be brutal at times,
Mm-hmm.
There's been some really tough things to hear, and I try to not see it or read it, but it may, it's fair. I mean, I'm the one putting myself out there. I accept the consequences of that, but I don't want to just record a new batch of songs. I want it to be something like, hey, this is the next thing, So in the meantime, it's been fun to collaborate with different other people. I mean, I'm writing actually back by myself more than I have in a few years, which has been important to me. And those songs always turn out completely different than you would write with a co-writer. So we'll see.
Yeah. Do you always kind of keep those, I guess, those nuggets that are maybe a little bit closer to you for yourself?
Absolutely.
Just because,
I mean, no question. I know when something's going to be in the vein. And then, I'll be honest, sometimes I've walked into a session and I've walked out of there and went, man, I had no idea this was going to happen today, but that is me. That is my life right now. That is what I'm going through or what's happening. Dark is a good example of that. Mm-hmm. I didn't know we were going to write that song that day, but we got in there and, conversation was a little heavy, and I sort of opened up about some things going on, and I had not felt the need to address it in a year. I'd gone through losing two people that were super important in my life, that loved ones, and then I went through a terrible breakup at the same time just because I didn't know how to deal with loss. I really didn't. And I was in the middle of trying to figure that out. And the last thing you want to do is go write about it, I think. Some people may want to. I didn't want to. Sort of ran away from it, tucked it. But then this hook was said, I ain't afraid of the dark, and it was honestly like a chord. My chord shook, it was like lightning bolt to the heart. It was like, hey, buddy, this is, because you don't know how to explain this feeling, this loss, this grief, this whole entire thing I'd been going through. Felt like it lasted forever.
Mm-hmm.
I had no way to sit here and tell you what that's like. But then when we sort of figured out it's like a storm, and then there was this message of hope in the hook, and it was so childlike. I mean, I it sounded like something you say when you're 4 years old. I ain't afraid of the dark. And for me, that was it. I was like, this is it. I knew immediately what it was and what the song was going to be about. I heard it all, and it was important. And that was an anchor song for the record. But some days you walk in, you have no idea. And then other days you're like you said, you have some stuff you've written, recorded, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to be cool. That's going to be something I'm going to use later. You don't know when or how, but yeah. I've got two things right now that I've been listening to, and because I'll kind of sit, spend time on my own just trying to craft and write, play, and I'll come across some ideas, and I have a concept for a song that I'm working on now that I know it's going to be good. I just don't want to fuck it up. If I'm being honest, sometimes some ideas are so, they're so strong and they mean so much to you. You're so scared of it. You're like, I have no idea how I'm going to write this. But sure enough, those are the ones that they really reach people.
Yeah. See, what I've heard a lot of people say during the co-writing thing is that you have to trust that person so much, because if you miss on that idea, you just wasted it in a way.
Yeah, you could. I mean, I wish somebody had just like broken this down and told me immediately when it came to co-writing. And I'm going to give you my tip, but the reality is there are a lot of creatives out there that you're going to connect with on a level that you can't explain.
Mm-hmm.
The trick is finding them. And sometimes they're people you never would have thought, man, maybe they don't even play an instrument. Maybe they're just an idea person, or maybe they know how to bounce things back. And you have no idea why it works. Maybe it shouldn't work, but it does work. And you'll get great stuff with these people. And I would bet it's going to be with about 6, 7 people. You know, you're going to have 5, 6, 7 writers that you really collaborate well with. And then the rest are going to be good co-writes or good people. You could be fans of these folks, but you just, for whatever reason, don't have the magic. And that's the thing that, like, I think people are so much missing out on when they're so anti-co-writing. I understand. I do. I would not, like, I was just reading this article about John Moreland, and he's like, you know, I'm not interested in co-writing. And I completely understand that. I don't think he should be. He shouldn't change what's working for him.
Yeah.
But I do think he might miss out on some magic if he ever found 2 or 3 people that he really collaborated well with, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, some of our biggest songs in music were, you know, somebody walking in the room and sitting down and they bounced it off each other and they offered something unique and new and fresh. And then we're thankful for these massive songs that we've been singing for years, you know, because of collaborator.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I would say be open-minded enough to approach that. But, yeah, it's not all about, like, slamming your calendar and I've got to write today with this person. And
yeah.
I mean, that's the business of
I think,
Nashville.
like, a lot of people think that I think, like, the outside view of the co-writing process is I think the average fan thinks either you're walking into, like, an office. Someone else is walking into an office. You pull out your briefcases that somehow pull out your guitar, and then like you start writing the song. Or that like 4 guys walk into a room. You're all wearing lab coats, and you start doing a formula, and like
totally
gets out a song.
Well, I mean, there's probably an element of that.
Yeah,
I mean, and it can feel sterile like that, and it can be very business. I think all these things exist. I mean, I just know, speaking from my experience, that there are times when, I mean, it'd be like if I make really great green beans, and then I find you, and you're like really good at making steak, and we go in together and we work, we're going to have a good meal because we both brought something really cool to the dinner, right? But if I just make good green beans, that's going to be a lamer dinner, you know? I mean, I don't know how to put it any other way. I mean, I think you have to find your people and understand. I mean, you know, some of my favorite writes lately have been, I've just been showing up with a guitar and, you know, maybe like a 6-pack of beer with 2 friends, and we'll just talk for an hour or 2 and just hang, and maybe we write, maybe we don't. And I may say, well, I've got a couple titles, and they may say, well, I've got this thing I was working on. And if there's a connection of like, I love that, then we'll go after it. But if not, we're all at the point where we've done this enough where it's like, we're not just going to write a song to write a song. We're going to do it if we think it's worth chasing. And before, when I was on my own, I would just write everything because everything could be a song, and that's true too. But you kind of hit this point of like, well, what idea merits a song in the first place? Is it worth to write about this character that I met the other night? You know, is this song? You know, so it's all about sitting there and kind of going, is this idea worth writing? Would anybody want to hear it besides me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes songs are just, you need to hear it. Like, I definitely feel like we wrote Dark, and I had no idea if anybody would ever like that song, but I needed that song. That was important for me because I think I needed to hear those words more than anybody. And so me singing it is more or less cathartic. It was like therapy, you know?
Yeah.
And I knew I needed it. And then I kind of got to thinking, well, if I need this, maybe somebody else does. So.
Yeah, I was going to actually say something about, I think like you said, it kind of goes back to a childlike aspect of I'm not afraid of the dark.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, it just goes back to a very primal human element. You know, like that's why people started having fires back in the caveman.
good point.
You know what I mean?
I
Like
mean-
it in a way, it goes all the way down to like just the core of being a human.
Yeah, and I think that when you really break down music, as complex as it can be, it has to be primal. Like a groove needs to be felt, you know. A lyric needs to be important. It means something. A melody needs to be so good you can't get it out of your head. I mean, these are things we strive for. We don't always hit, but you're right. It should be based on as simple of an element as that, you know. And that's why I love, you know, writers like Hank Williams Sr., you know, or Tom Petty, because they have an ability to do something so very simple, but yet it's so effective.
Yeah.
It's so effective, you know. I mean, that's tough. Johnny Cash was great at it. I mean, and then you had more complexity, like Chris Christopherson would be a more complex writer that took a little more intelligence, a little more thought-provoking. And I don't know, you know, I think there's room for all of it for sure, but some of my favorite writers tend to be just meat and potatoes, you know.
Yeah. There's like Johnny Cash was such a just like kind of like a simple writer in so many ways, and I can't think of the name of the song. He did it. He wrote it. He then they did it with like Highwaymen, but like the first version I heard was like a Porter Wagner version of it.
Okay.
I know I'll look it up in my phone right after this.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's such a catalog to remember.
Parkview is that what the name
What
of
is
it?
it?
Like Inside Parkview or something like that? You know what song I'm talking about?
I don't know.
I'll play, but
We'll play it.
here in a second. Like I'll play it for you, and like it is such a Johnny Cash song.
Yeah.
Even though like Porter Wagner, like I said, I think the Porter Wagner version is so much better because it's sad as shit.
Right.
But like it just, and that's just kind of how Johnny Cash was as a songwriter, just very simple, like you just said. But
yeah, I mean, I think if there's ever a time to try to be simple and effective, it's now. I mean, you know, we have such taste out there, but if you really want to hit the masses, you've got to somehow figure out a way to say it in the most simple way.
yeah. Well, you want to go ahead and call this, and I'll play you this song, and you can go do sound check.
Yeah.
Well, it was great talking with you.
Yeah, thank you.
So some of you probably thought I was going to just leave you guys hanging out to dry without the name of the song. The song is called Committed to Parkview. And I went ahead and played it right after we hit the stop recording button. And like I said during the podcast, you know, it's such a heartbreaking song. Johnny Cash wrote it. The version that I love the most is by Porter Wagner. And I highly suggest everyone go out and buy it. And they may make me take this down, but I think this is such a goddamn good song that I'm just going to play it for you guys to end this podcast episode. So, here it is. Porter Wagner's Committed to Parkview. And, we'll see you next week.
You know, I've been a guest in a lot of great places in my lifetime. New York City, Carnegie Hall, Grand Ole Opry, Nashville, Tennessee, West Plains, Missouri, hometown. And I was committed to Parkview. Hope I never have to go there again. There's a man across the hall who sits staring at the floor, and he thinks he's Hank Williams. Hear him singing through the door. There's a girl in 202 who stops by to visit me, and she talks about her songs and the star that she should be. There's a lot of real fine talent staying in or passing through. And for one thing or another, they're committed to Parkview. There's a girl in 207 coming down on Thorazine, and a superstar's ex-drummer trying to kick Benzedrine. There's a real fine country singer who has tried and tried and tried. They just brought him in this morning and attempted suicide. There are those who never made it, those who did and now are through. Some came of their own good choosing, some committed to Parkview. There's a girl who cries above me, loud enough to wake the dead. They don't know what she has taken that has scrambled up her head. There's a boy just down below me who's the son of some well-known. He was brought in by his mother 'cause his daddy's always gone. There's a bum from down on Broadway and a few quite well-to-dos who have withdrawn from the rat race and committed to Parkview. They wake me about 6:30, just before the morning meal. Well, they're taking my blood pressure. They ask me how I feel, and I always say fantastic. Why, there ain't nothing wrong with me. Then they give me my injection, and I go right back to sleep. And my days are kinda foggy, and my nights are dreamy too. For they're taking good care of me while committed to Parkview.